All right.
Okay, we're on Perek Kaf Aleph right now. Derech Knias HaChasidus. This is how to acquire Chasidus. So he says, Hine, Bimasha Yoel Harbe Liknos HaChasidus. He says, something that's really going to benefit us and to be able to acquire Chasidus. Hugolda Ostakolos Virovis Boninus. It's about really, the more you contemplate, the more you think about important matters and about these things, the better chances you have. For Chassidus in general is a lot about weighing different things. Of course, the actions of wanting to do everything l'shem shamayim for Hashem's sake, but at the same time, a lot of it is involved in contemplation. It says, Ki kasher yarba adam lisponin agodel rumim muso yisparach. When a person thinks about the greatness, how elevated Hashem is, the tachlis shleimus. And he thinks about the discrepancy, the difference between how great Hashem is and how small and lowly we are. When you just contemplate that, to think just how small you are, then that should cause us to fear and tremble. When they have movies and there's for like sci-fi movies, for like Lord of the Rings, that kind of stuff. Whenever there's like a big monster, so the reason why the big monster is so scary is because he could literally take his foot and just squash a human, take his whatever mallet he has and just go like this and kill like many men in one blow. So lahavdil, right? So Hashem, part of the Yira is like realize how great Hashem is. Hashem could do anything. So his bonino al rov chasadav imanim. And then, but it's important to think about the chesed that Hashem does. Meaning, so it's not just the contemplation of the yira, but that should draw a person to recognize the awe and how much Hashem has, Hashem's abilities. How does Hashem utilize his abilities? Hashem gives to us. The chesed does. And how much Hashem loves us. Kirvas Hayesharim Ilav Mailas Hakorva Mitzvos, about the closeness where Hashem brings us to the Torah and to the mitzvah Hashem gave us. And as well as other such things that a person should think about. That will give a person tremendous love of Hashem. And you're going to want to cling to Hashem. Hashem is like our father, mamish, and Hashem has mercy upon us like a father towards a child. Okay, same line. That's going to draw. And we basically like the act towards the son who's going to act towards Hashem as a son act towards his father, meaning we will act towards Hashem in a reciprocal fashion. It mentions here this could be why when it comes to the tefillah and davening in the first line of Shema, where we attest Hashem's love, what precedes that? The love Hashem has for us. So, right, because we come to think about the love Hashem has for us. Now Hashem cares about us, then we reciprocate in how much we love Hashem. He says a person should isolate himself in a room. And the person should think about these things seriously, meaning try to remove this. Before he said this line of locking yourself in a room doing his photos, he spoke about this before the internet, before cell phones, right? Imagine how much more difficult it is to really focus nowadays on proper things. He gives advice. He says the way to come to grow in this area of Hasidus is to learn Tehillim. Because the teachings that David HaMelech says, the ideas that come from Tehillim, it is filled, it is replete with Ava and Yira for Chasidus, related to Chasidus. Yes, David HaMelech was a paradigmatic Chassid. And a person that thinks about them, that he can't help but be inspired when learning Tehillim to run and follow in the path of Hashem. And his other advice to attain Hasidus is to read stories in the Gemara and the Midrashim. Nowadays, he didn't have ArtScroll back then. Now we have many, many, many great ArtScroll biographies and Feldheim biographies, right? To read about the lives of the Hasidim, to inspire us to see the way they act and how for us to be able to emulate them however we can. He called Eile, ironically, there's probably biographies of inspiration about him, the author, about the Ramchal. That from all these stories, it's gonna make us think about it and wanna emulate them. And this is clear. He says, I don't need to discuss anything further. He says, however, now regarding the things that pull us away from Hashem, that remove us from being able to achieve Chasidus, says, Ach mafsideh Chasidus him hatrodos ladaigos. These are the worries that we have. He's referring here to making a parnasa, to the things we're concerned about in the physical world. Certainly, you couldn't imagine the temptations and the things we struggle with now. Some people are worried about who's going to win the Stanley Cup, who's going to win the NBA Finals. I know we're only in the conference finals right now. Jacob deGrom's going to have another game where he gives up 2 earned runs. What's going to be, right? There's that. And then there's a lot of other things that we worry about. Certainly, just even on a simple note, I mean, people are worried about their parnasa, and it is important to make a parnasa, and things, tuition, an apartment, a house, these things are extremely expensive, and it's normal. But he says when a person is constantly involved in work and their free time and their mental energy is spent on this, worrying about this, so then all you're constantly is going to be worried and dealing with this. You're not going to be able to have the free time to think about these things that matter, or matter more. That matters too, but this matters more. Because without the contemplation, you won't be able to reach Chasidus. Even if you already reached this level, you attained it already. He's saying that it could still disrupts your seichel, and it can confuse and gets mixed in to these earthly matters. The stuff that you're worried about gets mixed in with your holy mind. You're not able to just like put it aside and focus on the year and Ava. And you're not going to focus on the other things related to Chasidus that we mentioned. It says in Gemara in Shabbos and Days, the Gemara says that if you want Hashem to reside with you, so you can't be sad. It has other things mentioned there, but the purpose is that when you're sad, it's not that Hashem is against sad people, but it's that when a person is sad, your mind, think about the last time you're very sad, you're focused on whatever you're sad about. And therefore, since you're focused on that, and it's an acute focus, then you're unable to focus on Torah and matters like this. Therefore, Hashem won't be with you because you're not going to be thinking about the things that you ideally should be thinking about. It says, Kol Shekin, trying to find out where it is here. Kol Shekin hanos v'tanugim shehim hafkiyim mamish el chasidus. So those things that I said until now, the things that could prevent you, are things that are, right, it's important to get a job, to work. It's normal to be sad. He says, but there's some things now he's going to discuss that are the antithesis, the complete opposite of Chasidus. Because they draw our heart to go after them. And the person becomes removed from all matters of precious and of true knowledge. And meaning, just think about the things that we are drawn after in the physical world, the things we like. Could be, meaning, remember, we're on a very high level right now, we're discussing. So we're talking about things that are mutter, right? Think about sports that you're obsessed with, or maybe movies or TV shows, or whatever it may be, or secular books, whatever you enjoy doing. I'm not saying it's not expected. It's extremely difficult to spend your entire day and every few minutes learning Torah, engaging in Torah. It's a question of how much we're focused on the other things and how much time we spend those other things. And I'm just as guilty, if not more guilty than you. It says, Amnam, let's see, Amnam, Mash Yuchal Lishmor Es Ha'adam Latzila Min HaMafsidim Ha'ila, Kua B'tachon. As a person, if a person is worried about their parnasa, it's normal. How does a person get past this? He says the answer is to have bitachon Hashem. To really thrust yourself onto Hashem and say, Hashem, it's on you. Because Hashem gives us exactly what we need. Everything we have, we're gonna get. So I don't need to worry. I don't need to spend that mental energy on it. As it says in Gemara Beit on Taz Zayin Amud Aleph, this Gemara, famous idea, is actually not in Gemara Rosh Hashanah. The idea that the amount of money you're going to make throughout the year is determined on Rosh Hashanah. So that idea is not in Gemara Rosh Hashanah. That is actually found in Gemara Beit. And so, right? So he says, if you think about that, it's already determined, mamish, on Rosh Hashanah, how much money you're going to make. So, okay, so why do I have to worry? It says, continue, we'll discuss soon, but the Chayin Amar Kumar and Yoma says on Mamacharem Days, Ein Adam Nogea Bamuchan Chavera Nima, that you can't take from anything that's not meant for you, not even a hair's breadth, nothing from anyone else. It's not meant for you, you can't have it. You see? Look, you're going to get exactly what you need, determined from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And he says, it is possible, technically possible, for a person to just sit down, sit on your couch, sit at your dining room table, wherever you are right now, and you can manage to do nothing all year. And you're going to get that money. The exact amount of money that was the Creator Hashanah for you to get, you're going to get it. Will require a tremendous amount of bitachon to mamish do that. He says, he says the problem why you can't do that is because of the sin of Adam Harishon. The Torah says in Parshas Bereishis pasuk Perak Yomel pasuk Ytet, Hashem said to Adam Harishon that every man going forward, you want to eat, you want to get food, you want to have a livelihood, you got to work for it. So therefore, a person has to put in the effort in order to get something, to make ends meet. The king Gazar Melech Elyon, because this is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu decreed. And he says, this is like a tax that every person, all humanity must pay. And no one's able to avoid it, right? Tax is one of the things that nobody's going to be able to avoid. If you try to avoid it, you'll likely get caught and go to prison. Al Kain Amru, and therefore, you say, Al Kain Amru, Yachal, where are we over here? Okay, so we are. Yachal, Afili Yosef Babatal. So you might think, I could just sit down and do nothing. Basically, Hashem says you got to work. Ach lo sheshtadlus hu hamoil, ela sheshtadlus muchrach. That the ishtadlus is a necessity. When you put in your ishtadlus, you fulfill your obligation. You do what you needed to do. And he says, there's going to be a bracha from Shamayim. Meaning, once you put in your hishtadlus, Hashem's going to help you out. Hashem's going to give you the money that's determined that you get from Rosh Hashanah, basically. Umash Amar David HaMelech Hashem, the Mel says in Tehillim, Perakayin Hey Psukim Zion and Hey, Kilom Mota Marav Velo V'Gomer Ki Elokim Shofet V'Gomer. Neither from sunrise nor sunset nor from the wilderness comes success. For Hashem is the judge. He lowers this one and raises that one, meaning everything is determined by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shlomo Melech says, Al tigal asher mibinascha chadal. Do not weary yourself to become rich. Hold back from your own understanding. Meaning, recognize that you shouldn't put as much effort as you think into it. You should work hard, but whatever effort you put in, don't think like I have to work extra overtime and do crazy things, because it's going to end up working out for you what you need. There's Ella. Haderech Hamiti. Last paragraph of the paragraph. Haderech Hamiti hu darakam shalach Hasidim harishonim. The proper path is for the early Hasidim. Osim torasan ikar malachtan tefillah. As the Gemara says, based on Gemara and Brachos, that I believe that they made their Torah kava. That was their primary thing, the ikar, and their work was tafel. It's interesting if you think about nowadays when it comes to almost anyone you consider a gadol. So that person is either literally sitting and learning all day, or they're teaching Torah and sitting and learning all day. They basically go together. Of course, they're learning Torah and teaching and writing Torah all day. But in the times of the Gemara, you look at he was referring to the early Hasidim. He says they had jobs. Almost all of them had jobs. Even the great Chavetz Chaim is obviously not on the Gemara. But the Chavetz Chaim himself had a store, and he opened the store. He said for like an hour a day, 2 hours a day, and because he needed to make some money, and then he had enough money, and then close the store. I don't need more money today, right? So that's what they did. They were able to work, but they made their ikar the Torah. And it's not just, even if they worked more than 2 hours, that's just an example from Chavetz Chaim. I'm sure they worked many hours. I mean, the Rambam himself was a doctor from morning to night, and almost literally, not literally, right? So he collapsed when he came home, and then spent hours answering shalos and learning and writing. Intense stuff. He says, what's going to happen if you do it that way? Then you are going to be able to achieve both. Meaning, Hashem says, if you make Torah your ikar and your work secondary, he says, don't worry, don't think your work is going to suffer. I'm going to make sure you're going to be mekayim both for what you need. That if a person did a little bit of work, did some work, from then on, at that point going forward, he has to have trust in Hashem. He shouldn't worry about the mundane matters, about what's going on. As tishar daito knuya belibo mucham chasidus hamiti b'lavoda. Therefore, he's going to be able. Lavoda tmima. And therefore, his mind is going to be free to focus on what matters, to focus on chasidus, on the truth, and to serve Hashem properly and purely. We just finished Mamish Chasidus, and the next parak next week is going to be about a Nava. We spent Mamish months on Chasidus, and certainly it was very, very valuable stuff.